prayed to God in an emotional news conference and praised God. All of that acknowledgement and concentration of request had an effect on the quantum computer. And of course, right after the incident, the next games that were played that weekend opened with prayers for Hamlin at the start of the game. What was the impact? Praying on TV amplified that request. Everything we generate here and broadcast is somewhere racing out into the heavens, and some planet hundreds of light years may one day pick up those signals. But in the interim, the universe is receiving and processing those signals and deciding how it will respond in terms of the next step in the reality that we will to participate in this simulation. I mean, think about it. If you're in a video game, you can have hard-coded all the options. Or as you think about some of the games and even some of the movies that we see on Netflix, your choices can drive new outcomes in the game. And so the prayers on TV, the concentration around one person. It's not like you have a million people with a million different requests. We're talking about a million people focused on one request. And as those numbers amplified, the capacity of the quantum computer became limited. And I know you're sitting there thinking, well, Mark, is that possible? Yes. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. And for those of you who love Rick and Morty, you'll kind of get what I'm talking about. The quantum computer generates reality when you pay attention to it. So it doesn't necessarily have to maintain the digital part of the other side of town if nobody cares about it. It only generates that simulation when you start walking that way, removing the reality that was behind you in order to maximize computing capability. And if that's how the universe works, the universe will stop and pay attention when enough gamers pray for Hamlin. And then the reset. The reset gives the quantum computer a way to change enough in the simulation to deliver the requested outcome. Under every scenario you could imagine, Damar Hamlin should be dead today. The odds, the percentages, they don't work in your favor when it comes to cardiac arrest. And he had 2 events. He's shown no signs of brain damage. All of these reflect a quantum miracle because reality got reset back to a point where Damar survives, intact as the person before he made the tackle. I know this is all for those who are just tuning into this podcast. You're probably saying, Mark, yes, you are dehydrated. Get a little bit more kombucha and come back at us. But for those who've been with me from episode 1, This is right in line with what I've been arguing all along. Okay, let me give you another angle. How many of you have seen the movie The Mandela Effect? Came out in 2019. The movie was written and directed by David Guy Levy and starred Charlie Hoffheimer. Charlie, who was called Brandon in the movie, was a video game developer and a grieving father who had lost his daughter on a day trip to the ocean. She had taken her doll with her to go collect shells. The doll got sucked out into the ocean, and she followed, trying to retrieve the doll, and ended up drowning. Brandon becomes obsessed with facts and events that many people remember incorrectly, such as some of the ones I have on my Event Horizon website, my Facebook page, I mean. Is it magic mirror on the wall or mirror on the wall? I've posted a copy of a Disney commercial from 1995 that I recorded back in the days when everybody had a VCR. When I saw the tape, I recorded that clip and put it on the website. Disney, which today claims it's always been magic mirror, in the 95 commercial advertises it as mirror on the wall. Now, that VHS tape was not digital, so whatever reset occurred didn't affect that VHS tape. But that's proof that something did happen. Because if the company's claiming it's always been magic mirror, it would have been reflected in that 1995 commercial. And for those of you who don't believe me, go to our show notes, click on our Facebook page, and watch that video. So this character in the Mandela Effect becomes obsessed with people who can't remember correctly. And these inconsistencies lead him to the conclusion that the universe operates under the same principles as a video game. And under this theory, he also concludes that there are times when the computer reboots and the new reality is close but not the same to the reality that existed before the reboot. And that's the crack of hope this character needs to try to find a way to bring his daughter back, to force the universe to give him his daughter back. Now, once Brandon gets obsessed with this, he finds Dr. Roland Fuchs, who's played by Clark Peters, who represents the real-life scientist that I mentioned earlier, and he's mentioned throughout several of my podcasts, that discovered that underneath our reality is real-life code, like HTML. Giving credence to the fact that we are living in a simulation, a digital simulation. Well, this character, Dr. Roland Fuchs, just as the real character he plays, has access to a powerful quantum computer. Powerful enough, as he explains to Brandon, that if sent the correct message, it could force the universal quantum computer to reboot and forcing it to return his daughter. The movie is wonderful in taking you through these steps and then showing you the outcomes and the potential outcomes that can occur when you use this type of an approach. In my mind, substitute the quantum computer owned by Dr. Roland Fuchs and do what I've been talking about in this podcast. When we empathize with each other, we create the quantum connection that turns us into a human daisy-chained quantum computer that can rewrite reality. Because Jesus was the Son of God, he didn't need the rest of us to do that. That's why he could feed 5,000 from a single, batch of fish, turn water into wine, walk through doors, turn birds that were clay into real birds, because he could talk directly to the quantum computer. But the swarm type connection that God had pre-sin with man was the way for us to have that same conversation that we forfeited. But Jesus' return gave us the opportunity to regain that power by giving us the opportunity to pray directly to God. And when we empathize in mass around a single topic, we have the keys to changing the universe. So did our ancients know this? Absolutely. If you listen to my earlier podcasts that talk about the Tower of Babel, I think this is exactly what they were doing. It's either this or they were creating a collider, a super collider. Either way, you're trying to force the universe to do exactly what we're talking about here. My theory that the ancients turned this planet into a quantum computer. And that's why we have pyramids on every continent of different shapes and sizes, above different types of bodies of water that can conduct electricity. It wasn't to bury ancient pharaohs in. It was to use every aspect of the planet as a quantum computer that could change reality. Go back and listen to the episode on ancient artificial intelligence and the true swarm intelligence built by God. The digital reality meant for us versus the artificial intelligence constructed by man, leveraged by Satan to keep us all from receiving the glory that we would deserve. I've also talked about the Nazca lines as being a part of that attempt to magnify and utilize the power of the heavens. So as above, so below. And you see that in the placement of the pyramids when they replicate and align with certain stars. Who goes through that much trouble to get that level of precision if you're not expecting an outcome from that type of work? That alignment was mimicking the somatics, the vibrational energy that contains the knowledge associated with that type of constellation. Just like our churches being in holy places does the same thing. It changes your vibrational outlook, tuning you to the channel where you can send and receive and change reality. And then, of course, there's always the Hadron Collider and all those guys at CERN that are smashing atoms together